My teacher let 3 rich stoners call me their homework donkey, watched them skip every meeting, and gave them my grade. Anyway, when I exposed everything in front of the class, he smirked and said, "Congratulations, you finally made yourself useful." I just stared at him. That was 2 months ago. Yesterday, he was dragged out of a PTA meeting in handcuffs while screaming, "I built this school." My high school teacher, Mr. Jordan, had a rule that rewarded the laziest people in class. His rule was, all members of a group project will receive the same grade, no matter what. He had beady eyes, a long white beard, and refused to wear anything other than expensive suits to work. And whenever anyone complained about his outdated rule, he'd tell us that this was what the real world was like. And if we weren't ready for something this simple, we'd probably end up homeless anyway. Like, what the F? Anyway, I thought it wouldn't affect me since me and my friends refused to let anyone take the heavier load of work. Until one day, when he announced the forbidden words no student ever wants to hear. Assigned group projects. Gulp. I crossed my fingers and hoped for the best, but I guess I didn't cross my fingers hard enough, because I ended up being assigned with the wasters of our class. You know the ones. Constantly smelling like the devil's lettuce, skipped class at least once a day, thought it was cool to have a GPA of 1.5. It's like I could see the future, because I instantly knew that working with them was a death sentence. At the end of class, I ran up to Mr. Jordan, practically begging him to adjust the equal grades policy just this once. He lifted his single index finger that was stained with yellow from his chain-smoking habit. "No, no, no," he said slowly. "Like I said, no exceptions. If you don't like it, then you can leave." I had to stop myself from rolling my eyes. Like, why do teachers always say that? I literally don't have a choice whether I can leave or not, but thanks. Anyway, I was determined for that old effort to change his policy, so much so that I began to document everything. In the first week, I scheduled a team meeting. At first, no one in the group chat replied to me, so I started spamming it with Bitmoji stickers and refused to stop until everyone replied. When the day came, Wednesday at 7 p.m., no one showed up. The next morning, everyone texted in their excuses, but it was too late. I already had my screenshot, mwahaha, and in our Google document, I was the only one making any contributions. Heck, none of those slackers even put their effing name on it. The worst part is that they knew they were doing jackpoop. Sometimes they'd text in the group and say things like, "Every group needs a beach, guess we found ours," or "It's so hot how submissive you are. Thanks, beach." But every time, I just smiled, because I knew after the project was over, their lives would never be the same again. It was around this time that I did the most insane thing known to mankind. I read the student handbook. After dozens of paper cuts and almost falling asleep, I finally found it. Right there, on page 39. District Educational Code Section 4.7. Individual assessment must be available when documented disparity exceeds 40%. I let out a sigh of relief. I knew everything I had done up to this point would be used for good. All I had to do was prove that I did over 40% of the group project. Over the next few days, I poured everything into making sure the group project was perfect. I even started replying to their group chat messages about how their GPAs would be completely messed up if it wasn't for me, how I was saving them from flunking out. Then the due date finally came. I walked into that classroom like a soldier on a battlefield, fully equipped with armor. Mr. Jordan wanted us to present it in front of the class, old school. When we did, the wasters didn't even try to hide the fact that they were reading off the board. By the end, we all got A's, but their celebration was cut short. "Mr. Jordan, it's clear I did much more work than them. They don't deserve that grade." "No, no, no," he interrupted. "All group members in a project will receive the same grade, no matter what." I smirked and put up another slideshow on the board, one no one was expecting to see. It started with the rule I had found. Mr. Jordan sat back in his chair like he was impressed. The color drained from the waster's face. I put up every screenshot from the group chat messages, the Google Doc file history, and even included selfies of me doing my group project alone. So I think I've made it clear that I did over 40% of the work. Mr. Jordan walked over to his desk and grabbed the manual from his drawer. He reread the section I had quoted before looking up. "In 25 years as a teacher, I've never had a student actually read this thing," he cheered. "You're the first student to prove me wrong." His face was beaming with pride, as if he was really impressed. He gave me an A+ and failed the rest of my group chat. I smiled. The slackers ended up flunking out because of how low their grades were. I thought I had won, but the next day when I came to school, I was cornered. Not by the slackers, by the police. They had found bags of blow in my locker. I stood there frozen, my backpack sliding off my shoulder as 2 officers approached me. The hallway suddenly felt like it was closing in. Students stopped and stared, phones already coming out to record whatever was about to happen. "Are you?" One officer checked his notepad. "The student who owns locker 247? I nodded slowly, my mouth going dry. "Yeah, but I don't understand what's happening. We received an anonymous tip this morning about illegal substances being stored in your locker. We need you to open it for us." My hands shook as I spun the combination. The metal door swung open, revealing my usual mess of textbooks and crumpled papers. The officer pulled on latex gloves and started moving things around. Then he reached behind my chemistry textbook and pulled out a clear plastic bag filled with white powder. "This yours?" he asked, holding it up. "No," I practically shouted. "I've never seen that before. Someone must have put it there." The second officer was already pulling out handcuffs. "You're going to need to come with us." As they they led me through the hallway, I caught sight of something that made my blood run cold. Standing near the water fountain were two people I recognized, but had never really noticed before. The school janitor, a guy in his mid-20s who always wore a backwards cap, and the office assistant who handled student records. They were watching me with satisfied smirks. Then it clicked. The janitor looked exactly like one of the slackers from my group. Same lazy eyes, same crooked nose, and the office assistant had the same distinctive birthmark on her neck as another one. At the police station, they put me in an interrogation room and left me there for what felt like hours. My parents arrived looking terrified and confused. My mom kept asking how this could happen while my dad paced back and forth, already on the phone with a lawyer. The detective who finally came in looked tired and unimpressed. "So you're telling me someone planted substances in your locker?" "Yes. I think it was revenge for what happened with the group project. The slackers who failed, I think their siblings work at the school." He raised an eyebrow. "That's quite a conspiracy theory." "It's not a theory. The janitor and the office assistant, they look just like the students who failed. We'll look into it," he said, in a tone that made it clear he wouldn't. They released me to my parents after processing, but not before making it clear I was suspended from school pending investigation. The car ride home was silent, except for my mom's occasional sniffles. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those smirks, about how perfectly timed everything was. I grabbed my laptop and started searching. Social media was already blowing up with videos of my arrest. Someone had even started a rumor that I'd been dealing to other students. I found the janitor first. His name was Tyler, and sure enough, his last name matched one of the slackers. His Instagram was full of pictures with his younger brother, including one from last week with the caption, "Nobody messes with family." The office assistant took longer to find, but eventually I tracked her down. Sarah, older sister to another slacker. Her Facebook had a post from yesterday about karma coming for those who think they're better than everyone else. I screenshot everything and sent it to my parents, but my dad just shook his head. The police need more than social media posts. The next morning, I tried calling the school to explain, but the principal's secretary said he was too busy to talk. When I finally got through later that day, Principal Martinez sounded cold and dismissive. "We take substance possession very seriously at this school. The evidence was found in your locker, and that's all that matters. But sir, I can prove it was planted. The siblings of the students who failed, that's enough," he cut me off. "These accusations are clearly just desperate attempts to deflect responsibility. I suggest you focus on your legal situation rather than making wild claims about our staff." I hung up feeling defeated, but then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is what happens when you mess with family. Drop it now, or things get worse." I showed my parents, and this time, they looked worried. My dad called the lawyer again while my mom held me close. Over the next few days, things did get worse. My social media accounts started posting things I didn't write. Pictures of substances, messages about scoring the good stuff, comments on other students' posts, offering to sell. I changed my passwords, but it kept happening. Then came the calls. Unknown numbers calling at all hours. Voices disguised but threatening. "You ruined their lives. Now we ruin yours. Better watch your back. This is just the beginning." My parents went to the police with everything, but they said it wasn't enough to prove connection to the planted substances. The detective suggested maybe I had made enemies dealing, and this was rival dealers trying to eliminate competition. I wanted to scream. How could everyone be so blind? That's when I remembered something. The school had security cameras. There had to be footage of someone planting those substances in my locker. I convinced my parents to request the footage through our lawyer. The response came back 2 days later. Unfortunately, the security system experienced a malfunction last week. No footage is available for the requested time frame. How convenient. I was starting to lose hope when I got an unexpected message on Instagram. It was from a girl named McCatherine who had graduated 2 years ago. "Hey, I heard about what happened to you. The same thing happened to me junior year. Mr. Jordan's group project rule screwed me over, and when I fought back, substances mysteriously appeared in my car. Can we talk?" I video called her immediately. She looked tired but determined. After I got the slackers in my group failed, weird things started happening. First it was just rumors, then someone hacked my accounts, and finally they found pills in my car during a random search. "What happened?" I asked, leaning closer to my screen. "I got arrested, lost my scholarship to state. My parents spent thousands on lawyers. We could never prove it was planted, and the stress destroyed my family. I've been trying to expose this for years, but no one believes me. There are others?" She nodded. "I've found at least 6 students over the past 5 years who had the same thing happen. All of them challenged Mr. Jordan's group project rule. All of them had evidence planted after getting slackers failed." My heart was racing. "We need to document everything, get everyone together. I've tried. Most of them just want to move on, but there are 3 of us who are still fighting. Can you meet tomorrow?" I looked at my parents, who had been listening from the doorway. My dad nodded slowly. The next day, I met McCatherine at a coffee shop downtown. With her were 2 guys, Benj and Jamie. Benj was tall and skinny with nervous energy, while Jamie looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Mr. Jordan has been doing this for years," Benj started, spreading out folders on the table. "My situation was 4 years ago. Same exact pattern. Failed his pets, got framed." Jamie nodded. 3 years for me, but it's worse than just revenge. I've been investigating, and I found something." He pulled out a tablet and showed us spreadsheets. "Look at the grades. Every year, certain students with terrible GPAs somehow pass all their classes. classes. The common factor? They're all in Mr. Jordan's group projects, and they all have wealthy parents. You think he's taking bribes? McCatherine asked. I know he is. I've been tracking the patterns. Kids who should be failing suddenly get A's in his class, which brings their GPA just high enough to pass. Their groups always have one smart kid who does all the work. And if that smart kid fights back, I started. They get destroyed, Benj finished. The planted evidence isn't just revenge, it's a warning to others. We spent hours going through their evidence. Photos of Mr. Jordan meeting with parents at expensive restaurants. Bank records showing deposits that matched suspicious timing. A whole system of corruption that had been running for years. We need more proof, McCatherine said. Something undeniable. That's when I remembered something. The parent-teacher conferences are next week. If he's taking bribes, that's when it would happen. Jamie's eyes lit up. We could record it. How? They check bags at the entrance now, Benj pointed out. I thought about it. What if we don't go through the entrance? Over the next few days, we planned carefully. McCatherine still had friends at the school who could help. Jamie had gotten good at using small recording devices. Benj knew the school layout better than anyone. Meanwhile, my situation was getting worse. The principal had sent a letter recommending expulsion. The social media harassment was constant. Tyler and Sarah weren't even trying to hide their involvement anymore, posting cryptic messages about justice being served. But we kept focused on the plan. The night before parent-teacher conferences, we did a test run. Everything had to be perfect. The day arrived. I couldn't go to the school officially, but the others could. McCatherine posed as a substitute teacher with fake credentials Jamie had made. Benj pretended to be there for janitor training. They planted tiny cameras in Mr. Jordan's classroom and the hallway outside. I waited in Jamie's car, watching the feeds on his laptop. Parents started arriving around 6 p.m. We watched normal conferences for the first hour, nothing suspicious. Then they arrived. Tyler and Sarah, with their parents. The parents looked exactly like older versions of the slackers. Same entitled expressions, same designer clothes that screamed new money. Audio's good, I whispered into the phone to McCatherine, who was stationed nearby. The parents sat down across from Mr. Jordan. The conversation started normally, discussing the younger siblings' grades. As you can see, both of them are struggling, Mr. Jordan said, pointing to grade sheets. The father leaned back. That's why we're here. We had an arrangement, remember? Of course, but with recent events, things have become complicated. You mean that little brat who got them failed? I heard that's been handled. Mr. Jordan shifted uncomfortably. Yes, but it's drawn attention. The administration is asking questions. The mother opened her purse. Questions can be answered. How much to ensure they pass this semester? The usual rate is $5,000 per student, but given the circumstances, $10,000 total. Same as always. She pulled out an envelope. Make it 15. The risk has increased. I couldn't believe what I was watching. They were negotiating bribes like it was a normal business transaction. The father grumbled, but pulled out his checkbook. This better guarantee they graduate. It always has before. Mr. Jordan smiled, taking the check. Then Sarah spoke up. What about the kid who caused problems? The investigation? Mr. Jordan waved dismissively. That will resolve itself. It always does. Students who challenge the system rarely last long here. We made sure of that, Tyler added with a laugh. Kid should have minded their own business. Just ensure it doesn't trace back to the school, Mr. Jordan warned. I can't protect you if you're sloppy. Please, Sarah scoffed. We deleted the security footage ourselves. No one will ever prove anything. I was shaking with anger and excitement. We had them. We had all of them. The meeting ended with handshakes and promises. As soon as they left, more parents came in. Another envelope, another check, another deal. By the end of the night, we had recorded Mr. Jordan taking over $50,000 in bribes, but we weren't done. The next phase of our plan was even riskier. The next morning, we regrouped at McCatherine's apartment. The evidence was damning, but we needed to be strategic about how to use it. Jamie had spent the night editing the footage, creating multiple backups stored in different cloud services. We can't just walk into the principal's office with this, Benj said, pacing nervously. Martinez already dismissed your concerns once. He might be in on it too. McCatherine nodded. When I tried to report what happened to me, the administration buried it. We need to go higher. The school board, I suggested. They meet next Thursday. That's over a week away, Jamie pointed out. A lot can happen in that time. He was right. That afternoon, my dad got a call from our lawyer. The prosecutor was pushing for formal charges based on the substances found in my locker. If convicted, I'd face juvenile detention and a permanent criminal record. We need more evidence, my mom said at dinner, pushing food around her plate. The recordings are good, but they'll claim it's out of context. That's when I remembered something. The yearbooks. McCatherine said this has been happening for years. There must be a pattern we can trace. The next day, while my parents met with lawyers, I went to the public library with Benj. We pulled yearbooks going back a decade, looking for students who'd been expelled or arrested during their junior or senior years. Here, Benj whispered, pointing to a photo. Marcus Chen, class of 2019, honor roll student, then suddenly expelled for possession. I remember him. He complained about Mr. Jordan's grading policy in the school paper. We found 12 more cases with similar patterns. Smart students who challenged the system, then faced planted evidence and ruined futures. Some had criminal records. Others lost scholarships. A few never recovered. I took photos of every relevant page. We need to find these people. Already on it, Jamie texted from his apartment. He'd been searching social media and public records. Found 3 so far. They're willing to talk. That evening, Tyler showed up at my house. My parents weren't home yet. it, and I watched through the peephole as he rang the doorbell repeatedly. "I know you're in there," he called out. "Just wanted to let you know. Backing off now might be smart. My family has connections you don't want to mess with." I recorded everything on my phone, staying silent until he finally left. But his visit rattled me. These people had already destroyed so many lives. What else were they capable of? The answer came 2 days later. My dad's car wouldn't start in the morning. The mechanic found sugar in the gas tank. That afternoon, our internet service was mysteriously canceled. Then the power company claimed we hadn't paid our bill, despite my mom having the receipt. "They're trying to break us," my dad said, manually resetting our breaker box for the 3rd time. "Make life so difficult we give up," but their harassment only made me more determined. McCatherine had arranged a meeting with 3 former victims willing to share their stories. We met at a community center across town, away from prying eyes. Marcus Chen looked older than his 22 years. "Lost my full ride to MIT, he said quietly. "My parents spent everything on legal fees. I work construction now." Alicia Patel had graduated in 2020. "The arrest is still on my record. No college would touch me. I'm taking online classes, trying to rebuild." David Kim's story was the worst. "My younger sister was in Mr. Jordan's class the next year. She was terrified to speak up about anything, just kept her head down and let other kids copy her work. The fear spread to other students too. Each of them had evidence, old emails, disciplinary records, even some photos of Mr. Jordan meeting with parents. Combined with what we already had, the pattern was undeniable." "Will you testify to the school board?" I asked. Marcus hesitated. "I've tried to move on, digging this up again." "They're still doing it," McCatherine said firmly. "Right now, they're doing it to him. Next year, it'll be someone else." After a long pause, all 3 agreed. We spent the next few days preparing our presentation. Jamie created a timeline showing the pattern of corruption. Benj organized all the financial evidence. McCatherine coached the witnesses on what to expect. But Tyler and Sarah weren't sitting idle. The harassment escalated. Dead animals appeared on our doorstep. My mom's co-workers received anonymous emails claiming she was unstable. My dad's boss got calls about his criminal daughter. Then came the worst blow. Jamie called me, panic in his voice. They got to Benj. His parents received photos, fake ones, making it look like he was involved in something illegal. They're forcing him to back out. "What? No, we need him." "I know, but his parents are immigrants. They're terrified of any legal trouble. They won't let him risk it." We were down 1 person, but we couldn't stop. The school board meeting was in 3 days. We had to push forward. That's when Mr. Jordan made his move. He requested a parent conference with my parents, claiming he wanted to help resolve the situation. My parents were suspicious, but agreed, hoping to gather more information. I waited in the car while they went in, recording app ready on my phone. Through the window, I could see Mr. Jordan's fake concern as he handed them tissues. They came out 20 minutes later, my mom crying. "He said he could make it all go away," my dad explained. "Drop the accusations, accept a suspension, and the substance charges disappear. He claimed he has influence with the prosecutor." "You didn't agree, did you?" "Of course not. But he's right about one thing. This is bigger than just him. There's a whole network protecting this system." That night, I couldn't concentrate on anything. We were so close, but the obstacles kept mounting. Then McCatherine texted, "Check your email, now." Someone had sent a message from a throwaway account. The subject line read, "You're not the only ones watching." Inside was a single attachment, a photo of Mr. Jordan at an ATM, depositing what was clearly a large check. The metadata showed it was taken the day after the parent conferences. "Who sent this?" I texted back. "No idea, but look at the reflection in the ATM screen." I zoomed in. Reflected in the metal surface was another figure, Principal Martinez, standing right beside Mr. Jordan. Everything clicked into place. The principal's dismissive attitude, the convenient security footage malfunction, the administration's refusal to investigate. He was in on it too. "This changes everything," Jamie said when we video called. "We can't present to the school board if the principal is involved. He'll shut us down before we even start. Then we go public," McCatherine suggested. "Media attention they can't ignore." I thought about it. "No, that's what they expect. We stick to the plan, but we add insurance." The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. We made copies of everything, physical and digital. McCatherine's friend at the local news station agreed to hold a sealed envelope, only to be opened if something happened to us. Jamie set up a dead man's switch on his computer that would automatically upload everything to social media if he didn't check in every 12 hours. The night before the school board meeting, I barely slept. Tyler and Sarah had gone quiet, which worried me more than their harassment, the calm before the storm. That morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Final warning, stay home tonight." I showed my parents. My mom wanted to call the police again, but my dad shook his head. "They haven't helped so far. We finish this tonight." We arrived at the district office early. The school board meeting was open to the public, but we wanted good seats. McCatherine was already there with Marcus, Alicia, and David. Jamie sat in the back, laptop ready to display our evidence. Then I saw them, Tyler and Sarah, sitting in the front row with their parents. Principal Martinez was chatting with board members like old friends. Mr. Jordan sat calmly in the corner, that same dismissive expression on his face. "They're here to discredit us," McCatherine whispered. The meeting started with routine business, budget approvals, policy updates. Finally, they reached public comments. I raised my hand. "Yes?" The board president, an older woman with silver hair, looked at me over her glasses. I stood on shaky legs. "My name is, and I have evidence of systematic systematic corruption at our high school. Murmurs rippled through the room. Principal Martinez started to stand, but the board president waved him down. Let them speak. I began with my own story, the group project, the planted substances, the harassment. Then I introduced McCatherine, who shared her experience. One by one, Marcus, Alicia, and David told their stories. These are serious accusations, one board member said. Do you have proof? We do. I nodded to Jamie, who connected his laptop to the projector. The first slide showed the pattern. 13 students over 10 years, all with the same experience. Then came the financial evidence, the deposits matching suspicious timing. Finally, the recorded conversations from the parent-teacher conference. The room was dead silent as Mr. Jordan's voice filled the space. The usual rate is $5,000 per student. Tyler's father jumped up. This is illegal recording. Inadmissible. This isn't a court of law, the board president said coldly. Sit down. We played more clips. Sarah bragging about deleting security footage. Tyler laughing about ruining my life. Mr. Jordan discussing his arrangements with multiple parents. Then came the photo of Mr. Jordan and Principal Martinez at the ATM. The principal's face went white. That's doctored. Fake evidence. Is it? McCatherine pulled out a folder. Because we have bank records showing deposits matching those amounts. Would you like to explain where that money came from? The board members were whispering among themselves. Parents in the audience looked shocked. Some were recording on their phones. Mr. Jordan stood slowly. This is a witch hunt. These students are bitter about their grades and making wild accusations. Then you won't mind if we audit your finances? The board president asked. And review all group project grades for the past decade? I need to speak with my union representative. I'm sure you do. She turned to Principal Martinez. You're suspended pending investigation. Effective immediately. The room erupted. Tyler and Sarah's parents were shouting about lawsuits. Other parents were demanding answers about their children's grades. Security had to escort several people out. Through it all, I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. We'd done it. We'd exposed them. But as we left the building, Tyler cornered me in the parking lot. You think you won? My family will destroy you in court. That recording was illegal. The charges against you still stand. Maybe, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. But everyone knows the truth now. Sarah joined him, her face twisted with rage. You ruined everything. My brother's future. Mr. Jordan's career. For what? Because you couldn't handle doing a group project? No, McCatherine stepped beside me. Because you ruined dozens of lives to protect a corrupt system. It ends now. They stormed off, but I knew this wasn't over. The investigation would take months. Legal battles would drain my family's resources. The substance charges still hung over my head. But for the first time since that day in the hallway, I felt hope. The truth was out. The system that had destroyed so many students was finally exposed. As we drove home, my phone buzzed with messages. Students sharing their own stories. Parents demanding reviews of their children's grades. Teachers reporting suspicious activities they'd been afraid to mention before. You did good, my dad said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I'm proud of you. It's not over, I reminded him. No, my mom agreed, but it's a start. The next few weeks would bring depositions, investigations, and more threats. The siblings would try new tactics to discredit us. Some board members would try to minimize the scandal, but we had something they didn't expect. A coalition of victims who refused to stay silent anymore. McCatherine started a support group for affected students. Jamie created a website documenting the corruption. Marcus, Alicia, and David became advocates for education reform. The investigation was just beginning, but the foundation of their corrupt system was cracking. Every day brought new revelations. More parents questioning grades, more teachers speaking up. Tyler and Sarah's harassment continued, but it felt desperate now. Their parents' influence was waning as the scandal grew. Other wealthy families distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with the controversy. 3 weeks after the board meeting, I got a call from our lawyer. The prosecutor is dropping the charges. Turns out the officer who found the substances has a connection to Tyler's family. Internal Affairs is investigating. I sank onto my bed, relief washing over me. It wasn't a complete victory yet, but it was progress. That evening, Mr. Jordan was formally arrested on bribery charges. Principal Martinez resigned before he could be fired. The school board announced a complete overhaul of group project policies and grading transparency. But the biggest victory came in an unexpected form. A freshman approached me at the grocery store, her eyes wide with admiration. You're the one who stood up to Mr. Jordan, she said. Because of you, my teacher changed her group project rules. I don't have to carry my whole team anymore. That's when I realized the true impact of what we'd done. It wasn't just about exposing corruption or clearing my name. It was about changing a system that had failed students for years. The fight wasn't over. There would be trials, testimonies, and attempts to minimize the scandal. Some people would never believe us. Others would claim we'd gone too far. But as I looked at that freshman's grateful face, I knew it had been worth it. Every threat, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. We'd given future students something I hadn't had, a chance at fairness, a voice against corruption, hope that the system could change. The road ahead was still long, but we were ready to walk it. The morning after Mr. Jordan's arrest, I woke up to pounding on our front door. My dad rushed downstairs while my mom grabbed her phone, ready to call 911. Through my bedroom window, I saw 3 black SUVs parked outside, federal agents. The lead agent showed his badge and explained they'd been monitoring the situation. Apparently, our evidence had triggered a wider investigation into educational corruption across the state. They needed everything we had. Jamie drove over with his laptop and external drives. McCatherine brought boxes of documents. The agents set up in our dining room, methodically cataloging each piece of evidence. "This goes deeper than you realize," the lead agent told us. "Your teacher wasn't working alone. We've identified similar schemes in 12 other districts." My phone started buzzing with texts from classmates. Word had spread that federal investigators were at the school, pulling files and interviewing staff. Tyler and Sarah had been escorted off campus by security. That afternoon, the school district called an emergency assembly. The superintendent himself showed up, flanked by lawyers. He announced a complete audit of all grades going back 5 years. Any student who felt they'd been unfairly failed would get their records reviewed. But Tyler and Sarah weren't giving up. That night, a brick crashed through our living room window with a note attached. "Federal case or not, this isn't over." My parents wanted to leave town until things calmed down. I refused. Running would make us look guilty, and we'd come too far to back down now. The next day brought more chaos. News vans surrounded the school. Reporters ambushed students for interviews. Someone leaked portions of our recordings online, and they went viral within hours. McCatherine called an emergency meeting. "We need to control the narrative before they spin this against us." Jamie had already started working on a comprehensive timeline website. Marcus, Alicia, and David agreed to do a joint interview with a reputable education journalist. We decided to focus on the systemic issues, not personal vendettas. 3 days later, Tyler and Sarah were arrested. The charges were serious: evidence tampering, witness intimidation, cyber harassment. Their parents hired the best lawyers money could buy, but the federal involvement meant their usual connections were useless. During their arraignment, more truth emerged. Sarah confessed to accessing the school's security system using her administrative credentials. She'd deleted footage from dozens of incidents over the years, not just mine. Tyler admitted to planting evidence in at least 4 other students' lockers. The judge denied bail, citing them as flight risks. Their parents screamed about injustice, but nobody was listening anymore. Meanwhile, the investigation expanded. More teachers were implicated. Some had taken smaller bribes to bump grades. Others had looked the other way when evidence was planted. The entire administrative structure was compromised. My lawyer called with good news. The district attorney was preparing to expunge my record completely. The arrest would be erased like it never happened. But the damage to my reputation would take longer to repair. At school, reactions were mixed. Some students treated me like a hero. Others whispered that I was a snitch who'd destroyed lives over a stupid group project. I tried to focus on my classes, but concentration was impossible with federal agents randomly pulling kids for interviews. 2 weeks into the investigation, Principal Martinez was arrested at his home. They found $200,000 in cash hidden in his basement. Bank records showed years of suspicious deposits matching parent donations. The school board held another emergency meeting. This time, the entire auditorium was packed. Parents demanded answers. Teachers called for protection for whistleblowers. Students organized protests demanding fair grading policies. McCatherine and I testified again, this time with federal prosecutors beside us. We laid out everything: the pattern of corruption, the destroyed lives, the culture of fear that kept victims silent. How many bright futures were stolen? McCatherine asked the board. How many students gave up on education because they were punished for refusing to be exploited? The board voted unanimously to implement sweeping reforms, individual accountability measures for group projects, anonymous reporting systems for grade disputes, regular audits of teacher finances. It was everything we'd fought for, but victory felt hollow when I thought about Marcus working construction instead of attending MIT, or Alicia taking online classes because no traditional college would accept her. The system had changed, but the damage was permanent for so many. A month after our initial presentation, Mr. Jordan's trial began. The courthouse was a circus. Media coverage was intense. We all had to testify, reliving the trauma in excruciating detail. On the stand, Mr. Jordan finally showed cracks in his armor. He claimed he was just trying to help struggling students, that the money was for his sick wife's medical bills, that we'd misunderstood his intentions. The prosecutor destroyed him with evidence: bank statements showing luxury purchases, vacation photos from expensive resorts, a paper trail of corruption spanning decades. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. 27 counts of bribery, 12 counts of conspiracy, additional charges for failing to report child endangerment when he knew about the planted evidence. At sentencing, victims gave impact statements. Marcus talked about his lost dreams. Alicia described years of depression. David's sister testified about living in constant fear. Their words carried more weight than any legal argument. Mr. Jordan got 15 years in federal prison. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked smaller somehow. The expensive suit replaced with an orange jumpsuit, the dismissive smirk gone forever. Tyler and Sarah's trials came next. Their lawyers tried every trick, claiming entrapment, blaming peer pressure, even suggesting we'd planted evidence on them. Nothing worked. The federal prosecutors had built an airtight case. Tyler got 7 years for evidence tampering and cybercrimes. Sarah got 5 years for her role in the conspiracy. Their parents sobbed in the gallery, but I felt no sympathy. They'd raised their children to believe money could buy anything, including other people's futures. The investigation's final report was damning. 53 students over 15 years had been targeted for challenging the system. Millions in bribes had changed hands. An entire generation of students had been taught that corruption was just how things worked. The district implemented the new policies immediately. Teachers attended mandatory ethics training. Parent donations were banned entirely. Group project grades would now include individual assessments by default. Other districts took notice. Our case became a model for education reform. McCatherine was invited to speak at conferences. Jamie's documentation website became a resource for students nationwide. Even Marcus found purpose, starting a nonprofit to help students who'd been similarly targeted. 6 months after that first arrest, I finally graduated. The ceremony felt surreal. New principal, new policies, new hope for future students. Mr. Jordan's former classroom had been converted into a student advocacy center. My parents cried as I walked across the stage. They'd spent thousands on lawyers, endured months of harassment, never wavered in their support. My dad hugged me afterward and whispered that it had all been worth it. That summer, I got acceptance letters from several colleges. My record was clean, my story was compelling, and my grades reflected my actual work. I chose a school known for its journalism program, inspired by the power of documentation and truth. Before leaving for college, I met with the freshman who'd approached me at the grocery store. She was starting a student rights club, inspired by what we'd done. She asked for advice on fighting unfair policies. I told her to document everything, to find allies, to know her rights, but most importantly, to remember that systems only change when people refuse to accept injustice. The federal investigation concluded with sweeping indictments. Administrators from 12 districts faced charges. New federal guidelines for educational transparency were implemented. Our small fight had triggered nationwide change. Tyler and Sarah's families moved away after their convictions. Their house sold quickly, the new owners unaware of its history. The school hired new staff to replace those who'd been complicit. Fresh faces, fresh start. On my last day before college, I drove past the high school. Students were streaming in for the new year. They looked younger than I remembered being, more hopeful too. The corrupt system that had trapped so many was gone. McCatherine texted me that night. She'd been accepted to law school, planning to specialize in education law. Jamie was developing software to help students document academic misconduct. We'd all found our paths, shaped by shared trauma, but not defined by it. My first week at college, a professor assigned a group project. My stomach clenched from muscle memory, but then he explained the grading rubric: individual assessments, clear accountability, fair distribution of credit. I smiled and got to work.